welcome back to part 2 of my simulated control tips. In this video, I should be covering pretty much everything about your top tier radars, radar modes, my keybinds surrounding those radar modes, and how I would use them in what circumstance. So before we get started, I would highly recommend going to your controls, simply just going radar like that, and get familiar with these controls here, especially these ones here. Really important that you know the difference between all of these, which I'll explain, but you also need them, pretty much all of them bound, especially for the top tier sort of Gen 4 aircraft. You're going to need all of these. So if you haven't already done that, do that. In just a second I'm going to explain what each and every one of these modes here do. Please excuse my crude binding. I just have these pretty much bound to the top number layer of my keyboard. It actually works quite well, because if I'm flying with my right hand, my control stick, my left hand can sort of sit around the WASD area, and as you come to see, the first sort of 5 or so numbers are quite important. So the first one, switch radar / IRST search on and off, that turns your radar on and off. The second one, it switches between radar and IRST. So you got your normal radar, which sends out radar waves to bounce back. Every jet that has radar uses radar, believe it or not. And IRST, which is infrared search and track, pretty much only the Russian sort of top tier jets, the MiG-23s, MiG-29s, that sort of class. So that's infrared search and track. So that is a way of optically searching and tracking aircraft. Talk a bit more about that later. The next one here, change radar mode or IRST mode. That changes the radar modes: search to pulse Doppler, to TWS, to HMD, all that sort of stuff. So the next one, radar / IRST beyond / within visual range combat. That's used for close range engagements, so pretty much ACM modes. It's also the helmet mounted display, look around track thing. I'll go over that as well. The next one's search mode, so that changes the width of the radar. So if you want to search just a little slice in front of you, if you're thinking about the sort of the pie of how the radar scans, or if you want to look all the way to the left, all the way to the right, use that one there. Change radar IRST scope scale. That's how far you want the radar to go. The radar's still going to go, but it's how far do you want to see targets. So it'll change from looking really far to looking really close. /IRST target to lock. This one will select a target. It won't lock it. The next one here, lock radar, this will lock it. This top one here, it selects the target. This one actually confirms and then locks you onto the target. These next two settings here, I wouldn't really bother with how my controls are set up and how I'll be talking about it today. You won't really be needing these two. But the last one here, controlling the radar tilt axis, you will definitely need. I've set this to my numpad, so my number 8 has a little up arrow on it, and my number 2 has a little down arrow on it. I'll be talking about how to use this in just a second. Would definitely recommend maybe adjacent keys, some sort of up, down, plus, minus sort of thing. But as you can see, I've pretty much bound my entire top part of my keyboard to it. You know, I don't have number 4 bound because I'm using that, I think, for rocket salvo, but this is quite convenient. I like it a lot. For the demonstrations of the radar, I'll be using the F-14 for the most part. F-14's got a pretty powerful radar. Searches super fast, searches super far. As usual, I'll be using a custom battle here. I think we'll go cargo port for this one. And I'm just going to jump into arcade, because for this I really want to visualize what the radar looks like. And I definitely recommend this. Oops, gotta apply. I definitely recommend just jumping into an arcade or realistic custom battle when testing out your radar, because in simulator you can't see where your radar is pointed. I think it used to be, there we are. I think it used to be so that you could see the green line or whatever color line scan across the page, but they've removed that for realism. So definitely arcade realistic, just to get used to it. Then when you're in simulator, you can sort of visualize where your radar is looking. And we jump, before we actually start flying, head into your settings, so your options here, type in rad, that should do it. These are my settings. Make sure you use the rectangular radar indicator, that is definitely the best way to go, and targets cyclic switching of aircraft radar, I'd use that one as well. Make sure that one's off, I'll tell why in a second. Yes, yeah, all that, make sure you have all that. Now that we are in our jet over the battleground here in a custom game, you can see we spawn in with search pulse Doppler, search pulse Doppler head-on mode, HDN head-on. You can see I'm scanning forwards 37 kilometers, 80 degrees across the screen like that, and 6 degrees up and down. If we look to my side, there you go. That's what 6 degrees looks like there. I can use my change radar search mode, which makes the scan then like that, really, really wide, or medium. F14 just so happens to have 3 of these modes. 3 of these modes for search pulse Doppler. Now, clicking change radar mode, we'll go to TWS. This one has 2 modes, sort of a medium and a small. And using my change radar scope scale, I can change how far out I want to scan. While we're here, I can press my lock radar button, and right now it has a soft lock. You can see the box kind of isn't completely full, and I just tried to get a lock there. I did crash. Anyway, if you have a soft lock with TWS, you can press the lock radar button and it will hard lock the enemy. Now pressing change radar / IRST mode button again, search pulse Doppler velocity head-on mode. Just reading that bit there. You'll notice 7,380 kilometers per hour isn't really a distance. It's not a distance. What this radar here means, the further up it is, the faster you're approaching the enemy. So this is about relative speed to a target. Very important thing to note, this radar does not have IFF. It will see any target as an enemy, so you can accidentally lock up friendlies with it. The only time I would recommend using this mode is if you have lots of confirmed enemies in front of you and you want to pick out the very best one. You want to pick out the target that is approaching you the fastest. Rather than that, I would steer clear of search pulse Doppler velocity. Next one, search. Normal search. Most aircraft with radar use search mode. This mode here, it's pretty basic. You got your 3 width modes. Pretty normal ranges. I don't really use this much because it picks up ground clutter. I don't know why it isn't now. Maybe that's an arcade thing. I'm flying an arcade right now. And you'll notice I'm able to move my radar up and down. I'm using the radar tilt control axis. I mentioned that earlier. It's on my numpad. So I can tilt my radar up and down. So if I want to scan right on the horizon like that, there we are, and fly up at the same time, you'll notice it's still scanning the horizon. Doesn't matter how high up I tilt, it will still scan the horizon. And you'll see as I'm turning, this little box here, that's where the radar's looking. So like that, I can use its gimbal, and I can also move it up and down with the tilt control axis. That's pretty much it. There's selecting radar target to lock. If I had an enemy, wherever he is, I could show you. But it's pretty much pressing that key, it switches between targets. So if you have multiple targets on your radar, you switch between whichever one you want to lock. Friendly and foe, you can see if your aircraft's radar has IFF mode by going onto X-ray mode in your hangar and hovering over the pilot, it should say IFF. A friendly is an equal sign, 2 horizontal lines parallel, and an enemy is one horizontal line. When the enemy is selected, there will be 2 vertical parallel lines on either side, making sort of an H shape. And in TWS, it is a circle. A circle is an enemy, and a circle with a line above it is a friendly. A selected enemy will be a circle with the 2 lines on either side, forming like, I don't know, a lol. A lol symbol. There you go. A lol. I think we saw it earlier when I highlighted that bot there. But anyway, I will quickly jump into the MiG-29, the Russian jet, to show you the IRST modes. And here we are in the MiG-29. You'll notice for starters, the radar is a lot slower, but look at that. That's 10 degrees. We're going up and down quite a bit. We also have some modes. We got Search Pulse Doppler, a TWS, and Search Pulse Doppler head-on mode, and TWS head-on mode. Head-on mode works best when the target is coming straight towards you. Normal Search Pulse Doppler will still work, but head-on mode will give you a clearer, crisper target, and I'm overspeeding. Now, the special thing about Russian top-tier jets is they have infrared search and track. That's that little ball right there. Let's point out. Using my joystick here. This little thing right here. You can see it from inside the cockpit. In fact, if I move my head up, that's it there. And what that essentially does is that is a camera. It's an infrared camera, and I can access it by pressing switch between radar and IRST, and there we are. We are in search infrared mode. You see scanning there, and on my radar it's scanning across. This is sort of, this is the search mode. If I want to, so on normal radar, if we want to make it thinner, we would press the change radar search mode. Same thing here. When I press my key, you can see there pops those 2 little boxes up there, and now it's only scanning within this rectangle here. Now that you've got the basic radar modes, now I will talk about ACM mode, Air Combat Maneuvering mode. That is the beyond/within visual range combat key. So here we are. See ACM Pulse Doppler, and if you look, it's a big old rectangle. It goes straight up, straight down. This pretty much automatically locks whatever walks in front of it. A friendly, an enemy, a missile, anything it points at, it will lock. It's helpful in dogfights because you'll be turning, and you want to lock up your target as you turn so you can get guns on. So you can see it's leading in front of the aircraft. MiG-29's a bit special because if I press the same key again, it has helmet mounted display, pulse Doppler, and it goes wherever my eyes go. In the cockpit, looks like this. And it pretty much, when I press my lock target key, you can see it sort of highlights, it's then locking whatever's in there. It's not constantly locking like the previous mode was, this one here. It's just waiting for you to then lock a target up. MiG-29, very special. I can now press my switch between radar and IRST button, and there we are. It's now the infrared version. The gimbal isn't as far. You can see I can't move it out as far as with radar. You can see when I go back to IR, it snaps in. Has the same thing, search IR. Here we are, air combat maneuvering IR. Doesn't go as far, it's not as large, but somebody won't know if you lock them with infrared because it's just looking at them essentially. It's like a weird camera. I'll jump back into the F-14 real quick and show you a few more ACM modes. Alright, here we are back in the F-14. If I press my ACM mode, my beyond within visual range combat mode, there we are. In the F-14, air combat maneuvering pulse Doppler mode. If I change my radar search mode, it will become tall. And you can see here, that's a representation of there. And if I press it one more time, there we are. I had alt all the time. it goes all the way to the top. So this one here is super good for dogfights. You can see how far over my head this scans. If I'm dogfighting someone, I will be able to lock them up above my head, all the way up here. Why does that disappear? That's like two on my head. That's weird. Anyway, once I'm in here, I'll go the rectangle mode. I can now press my 3 key, change radar mode, and it will change it from pulse Doppler to normal search. If I'm dogfighting, I will be using this one here. If I use pulse Doppler mode, it's very easy to get notched, and I'll often lose lock quite a lot. So I'll just use ACM mode because we're pretty close in a dogfight. Here we are. I'll press my change radar search mode, just like that. And I'll be able to fight away. The benefits of using this is if I load up a missile, I can warm it. There we are. And as soon as it locks, my missile will slave to it. I'll do that again. Alright, get a missile. You can see here, it's searching. When I turn my radar on, there we are. It will instantly slave towards the radar lock. Go, A9H, go. There we are, just like that. So that is the ACM mode. And now that we've learned all about the radar, I'm going to share some clips and narrate over them where I put to work what I've talked about. I use the radar modes out in a live simulated game. I hope you enjoy.